The following audio may contain the personal testimonials of some Optavia coaches or clients of Optavia. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Optavia team.
All right, welcome everyone to the Habits of Health call. We are so excited tonight to welcome you on. We have a great Habits of Health call planned. And some of you who are joining, you might be a client on the Optavia program. You might be an Optavia coach, might be a health professional, or maybe you're just checking us out. You're seeing what we're all about. This is the perfect time to be checking us out because you're going to be meeting Dr. Wayne Scott Anderson. So we lovingly call him Dr. A. And I'd love to just do a quick intro of Dr. A. So Dr. A was the first in his family to enter college. And he graduated with honors from University of Florida and medical school at the University for the Health Sciences in Kansas City, where he was valedictorian of his graduating class. He trained in open heart surgery at Cleveland Clinic and went on to become the 10th physician board certified in critical care. For 18 years, Dr. Anderson directed the surgical critical care program at Grandview and was chairman of the Department of Anesthesiology. And this is what I love. So 18 years that he was doing that. And then in 2000, he made the decision to leave his hospital practice and devote his full energy to helping people become and stay healthy. So now it's 2018. So 18 years there, 18 years in this new direction. So Dr. A is the co-founder and medical director of Optavia and a personal mentor to my husband Jared and myself for the past 9 years. And his Habits of Health book is one of the big reasons why we really decided to jump in and join this mission to help get America healthy. And big, awesome, amazing things coming out soon that maybe Dr. A will give us a little insight on in a minute. But Dr. A, are you there?
I am, Amber, and thank you so much for having me tonight. You look awesome, and it's pretty cool. You're right, 18 and 18. That we're now at the halfway point of my medical career, where literally spent as much time helping people get healthy as I did helping react to disease. So that's pretty wild.
I love it. So tonight, you guys are in for a special treat. Dr. A is going to take some Q&A, so some questions from everyone who's on. So we have hundreds and hundreds of people on the Zoom tonight. And if you're listening in playback, then you missed out. You got to get on live next time. You got to get in on the fun. So what you're going to want to do is click the Q&A button that is on your computer or your phone and go ahead and type your questions in. We may not be able to get to every single question that comes in, but we'd really love to get to a lot of them tonight, as many as we can in our time frame. So go ahead, the lines are open, type in your question, and we're really excited to see what kinds of questions are out there tonight. Okay, so we have some questions just rolling in, Dr. A. So the first question that I'm seeing is from Wayne and Courtney. I don't know which one, or maybe they're both on. But it says, could you talk some about structural tension and why that's such an important part of making decisions to change?
Wow. Thank you, guys, Wayne and Courtney. It's very interesting you would ask that, because that's one of the key parts that institutionalize the habits of health. It's part of the creative process, and it's a big part. I'm actually preparing for our leadership summit we're coming up on next month down in Orlando. And I'm actually going back to the basics of structural tension because I find it to be extremely important. So basically what structural tension is about is the creative process. And it's that for most people in the world, the United States for sure, they're really into problem solving. They focus on what's wrong and they try to solve the problems. And the problem with that is you never really create anything. It's just like if, you get on in the morning and you're looking at your emails, by the time you go through about a dozen of them, I guarantee now you're helping someone else take care of some problem they have, and you're not really doing what might be important to you. I know so many people that work so hard and they don't focus at all on their health, on their mental health, on their psychosocial health, on their relational health, on their family health. And so what they end up doing is they just react to everything around them. So structural tension is a very different thing. It's about organizing your life around what matters. And what we're looking for is, what are the desired outcomes you want? What's important to you, and what do you want to bring into being? So that's the first part. And then the second part of that is knowing your current reality, knowing where you are right now. And if I had a rubber band, which I might have one right here. If I don't, I'll fake like I have one. Okay. So I don't know. I know what I'll do. I'll use this. Okay. So pretend like this is a rubber band. So bottom line, structural tension requires two things to be known, two fixed points. One is the current reality, which is down here, and the other is your desired outcome, what you want. And when you know where you are and you know where you want to go, what it does is it creates a useful tension. It's not a stress tension like people think about sometimes. It's actually a dynamic force that pulls you up towards what you want. And what it does is it actually creates inventiveness, so that some things, like for instance, I'll take something simple, like you decide that you want to reach a healthy weight. There's a good one. And you want it right now, your current reality is you're 200 pounds, and you want to be down, your BMI at 150 would take you down to BMI of 25. So you decide that's your desired outcome. Okay. And what we're looking for is not to lose 50 pounds, but what it's about is creating health. So with that, then you say, okay, what are the things that I need to do to help me with my health? How do I move forward and create health? And there's a series of secondary choices that support what you want. So let's say one of those is that you have to give up alcohol. Okay, so you decide during that period, I'm going to give up alcohol. So basically, you may not want to do that, and you may say, well, I like alcohol, but what you like more, what's more important is your primary choice, which is to reach a healthy weight. So you do things that you may not want to do, but you do, because in relationship to what's most important to you, it then makes sense to do. You may want to start exercising. You may want to start walking. You may want to start working out. And all those are things that you probably would rather not do, but you do because they support what's most important to you. So it's a very important thing, because what it does is when you know where you want to go and what's important to you, then it informs your days to the things that will move you forward to this. So you don't get off purpose. So right now, tonight before I got on this call, I'm writing the next evolution of the Habits of Health. And I know that I had to get through the part 2 intro. I've just finished writing the sixth life book module. And I know now I need to go into really the weight management. And I know today I spent most of the day reviewing my notes to kind of assimilate what's happened in the 10 years since I wrote the first one. But I knew tonight that I had an hour before. So I said, okay, my desired outcome is to write. And I said, I'm going to write at least 500 words in this time period. Now, normally you probably wouldn't do this. Say, oh, I got to get on the call. I'm going to look at my emails. No, right now I need to perform and produce those things, so I need to do that. So where that applies, guys, is to every area of your life, for your kids, for your family, your direction in your business, for your health, for your mental well-being. Focus on what's most important. Write down where you are now and what you want, and then start creating the secondary choices or action steps that move you forward. There's a lot of things that can fill your day, but when you fill it with things that move you towards what you want, what ends up happening is you become more motivated. Your intrinsic motivation goes up because you're doing it because it's something you want to do, not what someone else is trying to get you to do. It's what you want to do. 2, you get better at it because you've now put a series of things that you're going to work on to get better at losing that weight, to reach that healthy weight. And then the third part is the relatedness, now that you're going to want to share that with other people. And when we're doing something because we want to do it, something we're getting better at, and something that basically we relate and share with other people, that's the sweet spot, and that's when we really feel the word's been used, basically flow. It's when we really feel like things are moving towards where we want. So there's my long answer to your short question.
No, it's a good answer. And I think it's so critical to recognize how much time that we waste during the day, and really focusing on what we want, like what we want long term rather than just what we want right now.
Yeah, that's really important. And actually, let me just touch on that a minute, because we are designed as immediate gratification. The go part of our brain, the limbic part of our brain, is designed to react directly to what's in front of us. We see something that's sweet, we were designed to eat it. And to think that the long-term benefits that, you know what, I know it's better for me to lose some weight, but that's in the future. It's not going to matter if I have that chocolate chip cookie right now. The reality is it's very important for us to now create immediate consequences for the things that are important long-term. So by bringing those together, so just a quick example on that. Let's say you decide you're going to go out and go for a run in the morning. And the night before you set your clock and say, yep, I'm going to get up in the morning, because it's easy for your mind to look into the future and make promises. But then up comes the next morning and, oh, I'm tired. And you hit the snooze alarm and says, you know what, I'll start tomorrow, right? Has anybody ever had that happen? I bet a lot of us have. And so what you can do is now to move back from the future consequences to the immediate consequences is call up your neighbor and say, hey, Sally, listen, let's run tomorrow morning. And so when the alarm goes off in the morning, you get up because you know what? You don't want to look bad in front of your neighbor. There's immediate consequences to it, so you do it. So just by spending some time, and that's what the Habits Health System is about. It's about teaching you, starting in baby steps, starting with simple things like drinking your water, making sure you're eating every 3 hours. All these little things start building a halo effect to habits, and then over time, because of your desired outcome, we're going to build those macro habits to take you on, so you will be able to eventually live in an amazing state of optimal health and well-being by having habits that you don't even have to think about anymore.
Yeah, and it's such a good point, Dr. A, that you said to involve someone else in your goal. I mean, that's exactly what you have with your Optavia coach as well.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Great. Well, let's go to the next question. So we have Jessica, and her question is, can you explain the fat burn process?
Sure, I'd love to. It's very interesting because when I wrote the Habits Health 10 years ago, nobody was talking about glycemic index. They weren't really talking much about it. The reason why, because most people thought it was too difficult. So in the Habits Health, we made it into a color-coded system. Green, you're in the green, you're going to be lean. Orange, you got to be careful with, and red to stay away from. But the reality is this: if you look at a fat cell, everything in fat storage and energy management comes around a fat cell. Now, when I wrote the Habits 10 years ago, we talked about basically calories in, calories out. And there's been a lot of stuff written about a calorie isn't a calorie isn't a calorie. But here's the reality, is that yes, some calories stimulate insulin more than others, especially refined sugar and flour. And those things will actually activate insulin. And then what that does is drives it into the fat cells and causes fat storage. So we want to stay away from things like that. What we do in Optavia is we have our fuelings are designed to be low glycemic. So what happens is when you have a low glycemic fueling, your body senses the nutrition, the complete protein, the balanced low glycemic carbohydrate, the vitamins and minerals, and relatively lower fat during the fueling. And what it does is it senses that the calorie level isn't high enough, and it starts activating and switching the machinery where now your body starts to move fat out of the fat cells. So the fat cells normally, and are normal for 80 million Americans that have insulin resistance, we are constantly filling those fat cells. And what happens is when you use the fuelings, you're now turning off the insulin pump, which allows the fat to now naturally come out of the cell. And since your blood level of fuel or energy is lower because you're using portion control, that you now use your fat around your middle, which is the unhealthy fat, and that starts coming out of your fat cells, and it's really an unlimited resource. An average person that's 30 pounds overweight has 145,000 additional calories in fat in storage. So when you go on, if you use the fuelings and go on the 5-in-1, you're eating every 3 hours. At about 3 days, you fully operationalize the fat burning mechanism, and now your body's using that unhealthy fat that's around your middle. So it's absolutely ideal. We do it in a fashion where it's not like going into a huge ketotic state. It's simply a mild fat burning, so it doesn't cause dehydration. You don't have to measure anything. You'll know that you're doing well because you'll have lots of energy and you'll really feel awesome.
Well, I think a lot of us on this call can probably relate to not having to count so much. I mean, how many of us have counted calories and macros and, every single, it just gets overwhelming. It's not sustainable.
Yeah, and the part about the Amber that's so important is that, we're designing everything about creating for you the future. In fact, I'm writing right now, transitioning into how do we become the boss of our weight? We become the boss by knowing what the proper things are to eat, when to eat, and to make sure we make it simple enough so you don't have to think about it. And the beauty for most of us that don't have a nutritional degree, or maybe weren't brought up in the healthiest kitchen, because most of us was 3 square with meat and potatoes and all kinds of sugary things. And since the 1970s, a progressive of processed food that's all full of flour and sugar and salt, manipulated by the food industry. So it is not your fault that you're in the state you are. By the time we get done with you with the Habits Health System and your coach, becoming part of the Optavia community and our feelings, you will know what you need to, and we make it simple. At the same time, we start teaching you how to eat when you're out, when you're at restaurants, how to go to the grocery store, and to do it in a fashion so it never feels restrictive. And the other thing, and the science behind our feelings, is they're designed to specifically protect your muscle. So as you're losing weight, if you look at it, and we can look at the charts and show, most of the weight loss here is from fat, which is the bad stuff we're trying to get rid of, and you maintain your muscle.
Yeah, and to your point, making it simple, it kind of makes it simpler on our brain. And this kind of leads right into the next question, to people who did grow up in an environment that, wasn't very healthy, or maybe food was tied more to emotion. And so Stacy, her question is, what's your best suggestion for overcoming emotional eating?
Yeah, that's a great question, Stacy. And I'll tell you, in both the Habits Health and the new version, as well as in the Life Book, which the Life Book, by the way, will be your first year creating your new story for your new life. And will be a combination. It'll have modules. Each one will be important, key fundamental elements to learn. You'll have lots of places to write. You'll be able to journal in it. You'll be able to answer the questions, and all of it's designed around a couple things. And the most important thing is being able to put your mind where you want, when you want, for as long as you want. And what I mean by that, traditionally, when we don't think and we're sleepwalking through our day, we have a tendency to go back to our natural tendencies. Since we were little babies, breast milk is sweet. And so basically, we were taught to have an affinity for those things. And then when we're emotionally stimulated, what happens is it hijacks our thinking brain. So in the Life Book, I talk about the no and the go system. And so the go system is the areas that are kind of lower in the midbrain. I call it the Labrador brain, or the emotional brain. And that's going to respond without you thinking about it. And if you get emotional about something, it actually hijacks, and it stops you from being able to use your thinking of making the right choice. So you'll automatically make the wrong choices, because 10,000 years ago, when there was food around, you wanted to eat it. So the body senses danger, even though the danger may be something about your ego or some perceived threat, and so you end up eating. So the first thing to do is to break that reflex. And the best way I've found, and the whole book is full of it from start to finish, is stop, challenge, and choose. So what happens is anytime we have a sense, and our emotions actually stimulate action. And emotions actually happen up to 8 seconds before you even notice it or think about it. But there's always the telltale symptoms that come where you start feeling, that lump in your throat, that thing in your gut, that sense that something's not quite right. So as soon as you sense that, we want you to stop. Don't allow the normal stimulus response, which would mean you'd eat something bad or do something or say something or whatever the negative consequences. Instead, you stop. You then challenge, why am I feeling this way? What is the emotion? The first thing is self-awareness, realizing you do have an emotion. And then the third part is, now how do I choose and to suspend that action step, let the emotion go, and then say, okay, I know what I need to do here. So 2 things to think about in Stop, Challenge, and Chew is, first, preemptively having a contingency plan. So bottom line is, if you are going to know that in a certain situation, like for me, I know that if chocolate chip cookies are being cooked in my house and I smell that smell, I'm done. So I specifically have a contingency to my daughters, who they stopped doing it because they don't want them anymore now. but they used to want them. I said, don't cook chocolate chip cookies when I'm in the house, because I know that it is almost impossible. It's an overwhelming, it comes back to being a football player in high school and my girlfriend being a cheerleader, and before the game's getting the cookies and they're warm and with the milk. And there's a whole bunch of great, very strong primordial signals in my brain that if that gets stimulated, man, I'm done. So the whole thing about it is starting to, that's why, by the way, the life book is going to help you detail and write down when things like that happen. So then you can say, okay, next time I'm in this situation, what can I do? And by the way, your willpower starts at the grocery store. It starts by not bringing the stuff into your house. And if it's in your house because other members want it, have them put it below your visual line or put it somewhere where it's not easy for you to get to. So basically, those are just a couple things. The book and the life book will be full. The whole idea is we know if we can help you now be in charge and have the know part, the know system, or you're basically this part up here, be in charge, you'll make the right choices. And we'll build those into habits so you don't even have to think about them. You will naturally do the right thing.
That microenvironment of health that you talk about in the habits of health is just so key. And yeah, you got to know yourself, know thyself, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
That's great. Dr. A, here's a question from Elizabeth. And Elizabeth is wondering about soy protein. And she's noticing that a good percentage of the fuelings utilize soy protein. And she said there's a lot of flack for soy. And she's curious what your thoughts are in why we use soy protein in some of the fuelings.
Yeah, well, first of all, soy protein is obviously a plant protein. It comes from a legume. And if you read any of Michael Pollan's work, eat food, not too much, mostly plant. And that's basically that mantra works across the planet. Plant-based protein is great for us. Second of all, it's healthy, has low saturated fats. And the third thing, it's a healthy legume. It's actually a plant.
Thanks, Dr. A. And one thing I've always been very impressed with Optavia is how we are based in science. It's not just, whatever whim or whatever blog that somebody puts out on the internet. We're going to make decisions based on the evidence, scientifically and medically.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, that's really important. There's lots of sources. Everybody seems to have an opinion. There's a million different opinions. The whole point about Optavia and the habits of health is the habits of health as a system. As a medical doctor, and from studying, like you said, I've studied this as long as I studied critical care, and I started studying it before anybody was even thinking about it. And so we have enough. We've helped over 1 million people. We have over 15,000 coaches, almost 20 years of experience doing this, and we've learned so much. The information we're giving you is comprehensive, integrated, and in a fashion so that you can follow it all in one place, and you're not getting the contradictory information you get when you go out and talk to people that may be taking it out of context. Right,
that's so important. Okay, we have another, this is kind of a fun question here. This is from Katie, and Katie says, will Optavia soon put out an app for clients to help track food or water, or maybe have a daily inspirational or motivational thought, or have structure to help us through the habits of health system? That would be awesome.
Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? And I love it when I can say that at National Convention this year, I just met with a group out of England, and we're about almost three-fourths finished. It'll be ready by the summer, by National Convention. It will allow to help install your habits. It will track. It'll track your streaks. It'll remind you of your water, your fueling time. It'll give you badges when you reach certain levels. It will give you, I'm actually even embedding in it Stop, Challenge, and Choose to help guide you through the day. So, yep, it's coming.
Awesome. I'm excited about that app. I know that.
Yeah, you helped a lot with it, Ann.
Okay, here's one asking about your personal story a little bit. This is from Tanya. And Tanya said, what was your tipping point, Dr. A? The story or anecdote, if there was one event that caused you to decide to help people get healthy versus providing sick care?
Yeah, well, there's 3 parts to that, and I'll give you the tipping point, but I'll just tell you briefly that I started watching more and more people that I would keep from dying coming back into the intensive care unit, or we would have to do further vascular procedures on them or open heart operation. And I just felt like we were just putting Band-Aids on people. That was the first thing. The second thing is I met the love of my life, Lori. Was a nurse anesthetist, my best friend's daughter, and she came studying for her boards, and it hit, man. It just lightning hit, and so we ended up having little babies, and I wasn't getting to see them, and I was sensing and realizing that I really sensed that it was time for me. I loved when I was single, working 100 hours a week, but I also realized my drawstrings on my scrubs were. You can't tell because they don't have any size on them, so I didn't realize that my waist circumference was increasing, and I was starting to have some of the symptoms of working too hard, not eating right, not moving enough, not sleeping great, and I was starting to see some of the signs of habits of disease myself, and I realized that I needed to make a shift. And then one night at 3 a.m, I was in the intensive care taking care of a sick patient, and I got called down to the emergency room because they had a drug addict came in and was seizing, and I was very, very talented in putting in lines, and the ER physician and the residents couldn't get a line in, so they asked me to come down, and I went down and put a line in the heart of this patient, and when they were doing it, the nurse stuck me with a needle, and I realized when I was going home that night that that might have been a death sentence, and I looked at my little girls, and it was just like the tipping point. It was the point where I said, you know what? I need to go help people get healthy. And that's it. That's the story.
And we're sure glad that happened.
I'm glad I didn't get sick.
Right. The obstacle's the way, as they say, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. I think we just have time for one more quick question. This question's from Jason. And Jason asks, can you please talk about what goes on in your body when you're losing weight and all of a sudden you find yourself on a plateau?
Yeah, well, that the thing is, your body has a set point, and over time and over whatever the habits of disease that we're whether it's eating the wrong foods, not moving enough, not sleeping well enough, being overstressed, all those things are negative influences on the set point of your health and your weight. And what ends up happening is when you start losing weight, your body is going to sense that there's something changing. And so you'll reach a point where your metabolic rate will start slowing a little bit. It happens, first of all, because you're losing weight, right? When you lose weight, you're losing mass. Mass consumes energy. So it's a natural phenomena. So one of the key parts of the habits of health is you're starting to reach a plateau. There's two things that get you re-engaged again. One is that you're progressively, hopefully, starting a walking program. You're starting light, starting obviously slow with making sure your doctor's okayed you to do it if you haven't done it in a while. Then you'd start a light lifting weights at a light level or resistance training. And then you're starting to add muscle, and muscle consumes more calories than fat. So by offsetting that, that's the first thing. The second thing is because you're turning off insulin, you need to make sure that because of the balance that you're making sure you're not somehow, your threshold's going down, and because your energy expenditure may be a little lower, you may be doing something that's moving and bumping you out of that fat burning state. So it might be something as simple as your vitamins or something that you thought was okay that's a sauce. Remember this, 20% of our oil, it comes from soybean oil. Bottom line is there's sugar in almost high fructose corn syrup in almost everything. So you really need to become an investigator and look and see, because you'll probably find that there's something you're doing that's either the combination of not being active enough, but also something you're ingesting. So you have to kind of almost become a detective. And then usually what I have people do is go back and doing this for years. Start using, take the shakes, the fuelings that are shakes, take things that are less complex. We know the glycemic index of our shakes are like 18, so they're really low. So that may be enough to start moving you back into the fat burning state. But it'll happen over time. It doesn't always happen right away. And it could also be based on make sure you're eating every 3 hours, make sure you're drinking enough water, make sure you're getting a good night's sleep, and make sure you're progressing your activity and starting to add some type of muscle training.
Thanks, Dr. Ray. I think that, sleep is so huge too. So many people just discount that. But we just sure appreciate you coming on. We love to have Dr. Ray on the Habits of Health call at least once a quarter. So look for him again towards the end of June. We'll have some exciting news then. And we're just glad whether you're on live. We know we couldn't answer all of the questions, but so many great questions that came in. And thanks for joining us. And we will see you next week at the same time for the Habits of Health call.
Great. Awesome, Amber. Thank you so much. And thanks for all you're doing to help create this amazing environment for people to learn. And Miriam and Kat, thanks for helping as well. See you guys. And you know what? Go out, get yourself, and help your neighbors get healthy. God bless.
This audio may have contained the personal testimonials of some Optavia coaches or clients of Optavia. The results relayed in these messages are based on the unique experiences of the participants, and we cannot guarantee like or similar outcomes. While you may be inspired by these accounts, please note that any stories of success have not been verified and your individual path to optimal health will vary. As always, it is our recommendation that you consult with a healthcare provider before starting a weight loss program. Yours in health, the Optavia team.